Is it possible to have a spiritual awakening and or sense of enlightenment or just general peace if we're carrying any past trauma or highly sensitive in our emotions? Stay tuned for this episode of SpirLift. Life throws us daily challenges. Living with depression or anxiety can strip us of our joy. At SpirLift, our goal is to provide helpful insight to make your life's journey easier. Welcome to SpirLift, a journey to a better you. Before we get started in this episode of SpirLift, if you enjoyed the content, please consider giving us a thumbs up. And if you want to be informed each and every time we upload new episodes on themes that we are passionate to share with you, such as spirituality, health and nutrition, motivational and inspirational videos, then please remember to subscribe to the channel and, very importantly, hit the notification bell down below, as this will directly inform you the moment each new episode is uploaded. Lastly, please consider commenting throughout this episode, as your feedback helps let us know how we can continue creating valuable content for you. Nicole, I gotta ask you, if I'm a person or any of our viewers or listeners, are just people who feel a sense of trauma that they've had in their life at an early age, a certain point in their life, and they're just carrying this tremendous weight on their shoulders. And let's just say as well, maybe in line with that, people may be empaths, particularly women, because you deal with a lot of women who are empaths, who are highly, they feel a lot, they care a lot, they're sensitive, and they want to feel this sense of just peace and just joy and happiness, and maybe really seek out a type of spiritual awakening, but they really feel like they can't. How do you generally help people like this? What is your main approach, and how can you really truly give them a sense of clarity that, yes, you are special, yes, you can have this in your life? How do you generally go about that?
Yeah, so most sensitive women that I've worked with, empaths, they all have trauma, because sensitive people are very susceptible to trauma. So it can be something very simple that happens. Like, I know for me, it was something like my father looking at me sideways was enough for a trauma capsule to form around that. And what I teach my clients as well is that trauma is actually the door that we go through to bring them to their awakening and to their ascension. So I use something that's called EFT, so emotional freedom techniques. And it's, tapping is another thing that it's referred to as. And we use that to remove those energy blocks, to heal that trauma, to remove that trauma capsule. So then they can feel that happiness, feel that lightness in their energy, and really attract the things into their life that they really want, or live the life that they truly want, and use those beautiful gifts of sensitivity that they have, for them instead of against them.
Is sensitivity, in your opinion, Nicole, are people who are highly sensitive, and we're talking about women more particularly in this episode because you work more closely with women, is it for women that you deal with more of a detriment to experience just any sense of joy in their life? Or do you help translate that in a way that they can see it as, let's say, quote unquote, a tool or a path of, let's say, just general journey of peace, guidance, and a way to really just help those even around them? Do you, I see you as kind of a guide in that way. Like you help them kind of unblock those false narratives that they may have grown up with, but they just don't. I see the type of sensitivities and being an empath really as a tool, but you have to utilize it correctly, right? What's kind of the way in which you guide them in that way so that they can really use it to their, let's say, advantage, for lack of a better expression?
Sure. There's actually one question that I ask all of my clients, and I always get a resounding no. And that is, if I could take your sensitivity away from you So you were no longer sensitive. You were going to be in the world like everyone else that doesn't have that high sensitivity. Would you like me to take that away from you? And it's always a resounding no. Even though it's hard to deal with and live in our harsh world sometimes.
But why is it always a no?
They don't want to lose that.
But why? Why do you think?
Because our sensitivity is I think because, well, for me, I'm talking from my own personal experience, sensitivity is something that's very, very special to me. Okay. It is how I interact with the world. It is how I know how the people around me are feeling and what's truly going on in the world. And I use that as a tool. And even though they are struggling, they are suffering with anxiety, they're suffering with overwhelm, exhaustion, depression, all of those things. And the thing too, coming off that is they're suffering with those things because they're not stepping into their sensitivity. They're trying to fight it all of the time. So my role is, as you said, as their guide, is to help them to start to use that sensitivity to help them instead of fighting against it all of the time.
Do you think people, and I know, a lot of different empath types in my life, right, who are part of my life actually. I see with other people, with them, unfortunately, use them, right? I think empaths, in my opinion, get used and abused and used and abused, right? And they feel that they have no, let's say, I don't like to use the word power, but I don't think that they feel empowered either, right? Like empaths feel like they're always the tool in somebody's shed for something, right? And it's a very, very highly toxic situation, right? So, I like what you say is that you're working with them to deter them from that whole narrative, that whole, ideology. And what do you think, in your opinion, empaths need to know right now to know that how special they truly are? What can, if they're really, really, really hurting for something and longing for somebody to say, hey, look, don't have to worry about this because you are special in this way. Can you please speak to them right now and just give them that sense of how they feel? Mm-hmm.
So what I guess, what I really want them to know is that just because you can feel it doesn't mean it's your job to carry it. Mm-hmm. Because as empaths, we tend to feel, okay, we can feel how that person is feeling. So I must have to take that off them and I must have to carry that for them. That is not your job. Yes, we feel it. We are there to support them and help them to carry it because that is their lesson here in this lifetime. If you take that away from them, you are affecting them in a negative way because they are no longer learning the lesson that they need to learn. And you're putting stuff onto yourself that you can't carry anyway because it was never yours to carry. So you need to understand that just because you feel it doesn't mean you need to carry it.
That is so important because I think empaths just carry everything all the time and don't know how to discern between what is part of their life and what isn't, right? What in general, right. And I think this is probably not an easy thing to answer because I think it's very particular to each person, but what in general, in your opinion, are empaths' purpose on this planet? What is their main, maybe everyone has their own specific mission, here in their time on this planet, but what are empaths' main purpose?
For me, we're truth bearers. Mm-hmm. We see the truth, we feel the truth, we feel the in between the words, in between the lines, we feel all of that. So I feel that's overall for empaths as a whole, that is our job here on earth. And obviously, as you said, each of us has our own mission to do different things. Like for me, I'm a nurturer, so that is my sole purpose while I'm here, but I'm also an empath. So I bring the truth. And that I feel as a whole for empaths is what our role is. And it can be a hard role, hard thing to stand in, because if someone is telling you something, especially if it's a loved one, but you can feel that is not either the truth or it's not the whole truth, it's very hard to stand there and allow them to continue to tell you these things that you know are not true. You're feeling that is not true. But sometimes those people aren't ready.
Right.
They're not ready for you to go, actually, that's not 100% true. Empaths get a lot of pushback in that. So it's also learning, when do I share the truth and when do I not?
That I think that is the key for them, is learning when and when not, right? And the word no is very important, I think, for most empaths.
Yeah, definitely. And boundaries as well.
So Nicole, you just mentioned that you understand personally for you why you're here on this planet, right? Why you are, doing the work that you're doing. You're a holistic counselor from Australia. You can't get better than that. Close to the beach. Can't get better than that. Wow. Very jealous. But you've kind of embraced this main way in which you understand who you are and why you're here. And I think that's profound, honestly. I mean, I just, coming to understand what I understand about other people, and I'm still learning and wanting to grow and develop every day. I notice that most people are always striving for that main thing. And I think with empaths, especially, it can become a challenge because they feel that their life is serving others all the time, and they don't know their own identity. Wait, it seems like you have such a deep understanding about this, Nicole. Why did you decide to just in general get into doing the work that you do and help people of, especially particularly women, in this areas? Yeah. What's the reason for that?
I guess it really came from my own trauma. So I'd been through my own trauma, growing up in a very masculine home. Emotions weren't allowed. We weren't allowed to be sensitive. I was very different to my siblings, very different to my parents. I still am. So I had a lot of trauma through that, and not being able to be myself as a child, even into adulthood. But then about 6 years ago, my daughter was diagnosed with epilepsy. So that was a huge trauma for me. All of a sudden I realized there was a lot of help for her in what we needed to do for her, and that's important, of course. But as her mother, dealing with the emotional fallout from this, there was no help for me. And that's kind of where it started. I was like, there needs to be something more here to help, women who are sensitive, whether they're mothers or whether they're not, to be able to cope with these high emotional times, these highly stressful times. And that's kind of where it started for me. I had to close down my previous business that I was running, which was a candle supply business here on the Gold Coast. And that was like my little baby. I'd grown it, over the years, and it was very, very successful. Really? So I had to sell that because the fragrances were setting off my daughter's seizures. Oh, wow. So I guess, in a way it was like, I was just like, what do I do now? But I don't know.
So then how did you then seek out to become like the holistic counselor you are, and explain what that means to women out there, and the actual certified practice they have?
Sure.
Like, how did you see that?
So I went on to do the diploma of counselling, and I was all for that. I was just going to be like the traditional counsellor. That was the plan. But once, and in the middle of that, EFT came into my world. And to me, that came in divine timing. And I went along to the training, and all of a sudden I was like, this is it. This is amazing. I was healing myself just in that training.
And what did it consist of in general, that kind of training?
Yeah, so it was the emotional freedom technique. So we were doing tapping. We were learning all about energy healing in this modality, and how it was going to help, how it helps to calm the amygdala in the brain, which is our stress center, our emotional center. And I was like, there it is. That is what I've been looking for. That's what was missing. So then I finished off my counselling training, as well as becoming certified in EFT. And then I was like, okay, how do I do this together? Because that did not fit in the traditional mode, the traditional model. So I was like, what do I do now? So I was like, okay, I need to work out how I bring this together like a little jigsaw that's unique to me, as opposed to trying to fit myself into this square box that is traditional counselling. And that's really where the holistic counselling came from for me. I was able to make it my own and go, what is it that these sensitive women really need? They don't want to go to a clinical space. with white walls, that's not going to help them to open up. Right. They need someone that, and it's what I've noticed, I guess, in my practice, is they need someone that understands.
Sure.
Like they may have been to other counselors, to other psychologists, psychiatrists, and tell them that they're an empath or tell them that they're sensitive, and they don't understand.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that a lot of, sorry to interrupt you, do you find that a lot of women who feel like this are truly seeking out the type of help that you provide? Because they do, I mean, the reason I ask is that because I feel in general that each and every person has, let's say, a very spiritual innateness about them, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite books, and I always say this on SpirLift, is Anamkara by John O'Donohue. He's an Irish poet who wrote an Anamkara in Celtic or Gaelic, one of the two. Hopefully they're interchangeable. I'm going to get it wrong. But it means soul friend. And that book is written so beautifully about his idea of the expression and meaning of the soul. It's just phenomenal. And it just, every time I'm rereading it now, every time I read it, just something comes alive in me. So the reason I say an innate spirituality, and if they go to you, is that I find in general it's just a light pulse on things, but I think people want a more if they're going to people as yourself, they want to feel that like soul part of them inside, whatever that means to them. Okay, I'm not trying to define things here, but whatever that part of them inside just wants to be escape and be free and just feel euphoric and at peace and joyful. They're seeking out people more as yourself rather than, like you said, the four white walls type of practitioners. Do you see that especially women are seeking you out more for those reasons?
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, because of the name that's in my business name, so Nicole Ivens Holistic Counselling, that they're looking for someone holistic, and there isn't a lot available. So I do find that they find me, and then even at that time, they don't necessarily know that I'm based in spirituality. If they come into my clinic, I've got a whole shelf full of angel cards, oracle cards. They don't necessarily know that before they even come. But like you're talking about soul friends, I'm very big on soulmate clients.
Right. Wow.
We all came here together. I'm here to serve them and here to support them. So to me, they will find me because they'll be drawn to me.
Can I tell you something? I'm really excited you said that, and this just came to my mind right now, so I want to ask it now before I forget. Like, do you, based on everything that you've come to learn and are learning, and each day and everything like that, do you think we're truly, well, maybe not everyone, but some of us we do come to this earth with a soulmate? Like, I mean, my wife and I are married. I think we're married for a reason, but can you in your own unique practice and spiritual sense really detect that? Like, if I were to sit down with my wife, like, oh yeah, you guys came as soulmates, can you really point that out?
Yeah, I don't know that I could point out that it's a soulmate, but I can definitely feel the connection between people.
Right.
But I can also feel the separation as well.
Oh, okay.
So I can see if there's a separation there they don't necessarily know about. But I also believe that we have more than one soulmate. So obviously, for me, my husband, my husband is my soul. So my husband is my soulmate. But then we can have soulmates in pets. We can have soulmates in friends. And also, I think good to understand too is that the family that we're born into isn't necessarily our soul family.
That's a very good point.
So I think because when people grow up in traumatic families, there's this saying of, but they're my family. Just because they're your family, your birth family, doesn't mean that they can treat you in these bad ways, because lots of my sensitive women come from those sort of childhoods because they aren't treated in not great ways. So that's why they have that trauma. So it's important to understand that we have this soul family, but they're not necessarily your birth family. I
think that's a really important point, because I've seen, I guess through my own experience in life as well, I've seen relationships with people really go in cycles. Like there's been, one phase of life where these particular block of relationships have been vital and important and the best thing for that time. And then it goes to another thing. It seems to go in cycles. So, sometimes it makes me sad, but sometimes it makes me excited because, what's the next decade going to bring, So I don't know, and I'm open for that. I'm open for love. I think if we're open for me, it's about reciprocity too. I think the best relationships are ones that have like this mutual love and reciprocity between what you're doing. I think I love those type of relationships. It's not always like that, but those are usually the best. And something that you mentioned just a little bit ago, Nicole, I want to touch upon as well when you were mentioning the cards and everything you use in your home. Something clicked in my mind thinking about angels, and I know, and investigating more about you and I speaking, and knowing what you do, the word and theme of angels came to me, and the reason is I know a lot of women who are empaths who do as well feel naturally to them that they sense angels around them, that they sense spirits who are telling them certain things or protecting them or guiding them, and they really feel like it's incredibly real. So can you speak a little bit on angels themselves? What your interpretation of them is, and why maybe women especially who are really sensitive women, empaths, have a much easier time, let's say, for lack of a better expression, communicating with angels?
Yeah. So their sensitivity is where it's at. So because they are so sensitive, they're very connected in to the angelic realm. So that's why they would be able to get those messages through quite easily. So for me, like, I have the belief that we all have a guardian angel, and that guardian angel is with us all of the time. So from when we leave heaven to when we, we're finished here at earth, they're with us for that whole time. And that is someone that I connect on with every day, is with my guardian angel. She's keeping me safe. She's giving me guidance, giving me support that I need throughout that day. But then you've also got, like, your archangels. So I think for sensitive women, empaths in particular, starting to connect in with those higher beings is very, very supportive of the work that we're doing here. So for example, Archangel Gabriel is actually my guardian angel as well. But Archangel Gabriel is all about nurturing, which the fact that I'm the nurturer makes complete sense that she is my guardian angel. So she's one that for empaths to connect in with because of her nurturing spirit, and that she can really help us in the support that we're giving to people here on earth. We obviously need to be feeling supported as well. So I find that, really helps. And there's another archangel, Archangel Metatron, which also helps with sensitivity. So another great archangel to be connecting in with to help us with dealing with our sensitivity while we're here on earth.
And the one thing that maybe for empaths that, like, I would say that I'm not so much I think I have empathic, let's say, tendencies for, like, I don't know to what degree I'm an empath, but I do feel it naturally. I do have inclinations of that for sure. I don't know as to what degree I do or don't, but I do have a feeling of that. But let's say women, especially who are more deeply, like, on the degree of being an empath, like, how, and I think this is a very challenging point, is how can they discern properly between, let's say, good information, messaging from angels, archangels, versus, let's say, more like bad spirits, basically, right? Sure. Because the misleading spirits, right? Because that can lead to, because for some reason, when I think empaths, sometimes I think vulnerability, right? Because if you don't understand the power in which an empath is, it can be your greatest enemy at the same time. So in your work with women that way, do you help them and guide them in that way as well?
Yeah. And what I guide them is their body will tell them. So if you come into contact with an energy that's not necessarily bad, but if it's a negative energy, then your body's going to tell you. It's going to be screaming at you.
Mm-hmm.
So really connecting in, and that's a thing too with holistic counselling, is we really want to get out of the brain, because a lot of people that have got anxiety, depression, things like that, they live very much in their mind, in their brain. We're really wanting them to drop down into their body. And their body is so wise, it will tell them if something's not right. And it's also getting them to trust in that as well. So, going back to your question about how are these women been able to connect with angels, they actually need to be trusting in themselves first. So, if we've got sensitive women out there, empaths that are like, well, I don't connect with angels, I don't hear anything. Does that mean that I'm not sensitive? Does that mean that I'm not an empath? No, it doesn't. It just means that the life that you've been through, you haven't been able to trust in yourself.
So it has a lot to do with trust in a way, right? It
does, because if you can't trust in yourself, then you can't trust in the messages that are coming through.
Right.
Because you'll just think that you're imagining it, especially if you're like me and I'm what you call claircognizant. So all of the information is just downloaded into my mind. So it comes through as thoughts. So it's a very hard one to go, is that me or is that guidance? Like, it took me a long time.
Can you, sorry to interrupt you, Nicole, can you explain really well to our listeners and viewers, and also, anyone listening, on podcast form or on the channel, please comment below. What do you think of these sort of topics that Nicole's presenting? Do you relate to it? Are you also an empath? Do you feel things in a very sensitive way, especially women? So please comment below. We would really appreciate that. Going back, Nicole, can you please explain what that is, the claircognizant, what exactly it is, and especially what for you, because you are like that, how does that feel? How does that make you feel? I guess I've heard other people like that, and just for me it sounds overwhelming, but can you explain it in your own way, like how that is?
Yeah, so it's just like, they're just dropping the thoughts straight into my mind. And in the beginning, I was like, you're going to have to do something different here, because I just feel that they're my thoughts. I feel like I'm making things up, that this isn't true, that this isn't real. And I'm like, you're going to have to do it a little bit differently for me, because I didn't trust in myself back then. And it was a matter of then using different words. So words that I would not use in my day-to-day conversations. And then I'm like, okay, that's them, that's not me. And so slowly I was able to trust what was coming through, and now I don't even question it, especially if I'm pulling guidance through for myself or I'm pulling guidance through for my clients. I never question what it is that I'm getting and the thoughts that are coming through my mind. I'm like, okay, that's them, I just need to share that. It's like, I guess, it dropping down in through your crown chakra and coming out through your throat chakra. I'm just going to open my mouth and let it come out, not filter it at all, because it's not mine to filter. It's coming through me. And the thing too, when information is coming through you like that, you're not necessarily going to remember it later.
So because it's just so instantaneous, right?
Yeah, and in session all of the time I am channeling. Even if I'm not doing it on purpose, if I'm working with a client, things just start coming through and they'll be like, oh yeah, that really resonates with me. What was that you said again? And I'll be like, I don't know. What was it that I just said? Because it didn't come from me, it came through me. So that's kind of the difference and how it feels for me.
That's wow. This must be powerful more than anything. I just can't imagine. This thing, and Nicole, when women come to you, right? Do you find, and something came to my mind with this, do you find that a lot of the women come to you may be dealing with a lot of actual physical issues, ailments, pains? Because they say that really emotional pain is worse than physical pain. I don't know if that's true or not, but who knows? It depends if you get hit by a bus, right? But the thing is, like, empaths feel so deeply, like in the bones, in like the cellular level. It's tremendous, the energy in which they feel things. It's just profound, and if you don't know how to manage it or deal with it or just come to grips with it, it just hurts you. Like, so when someone comes to you, are they like dealing with a lot of, let's just say, gastro issues, physical pain. Do you see that sometimes?
Yeah. A lot of my clients have got physical pain. And the thing too is that unfortunately pain is what drives us. So if we're not experiencing pain either on emotional level, spiritual level, physical level, then we're not urged to do anything. So sometimes I feel like our body starts to break down because it's like, you know what, we can't keep doing this.
Right.
And I experienced that myself, you know, with the stress I was going through with my daughter's diagnosis. You know, I was just going, not being able to sleep at night because of her seizures, and the stress levels were ridiculous. So my body started to shut down. I was having liver issues, you know, all sorts of physical things were happening. So then as I started to heal what I'd been through, my liver started to recover.
Wow.
So it's really understand there's such a tight connection between our emotional pain and our physical pain. And if you do not pay attention to your emotional pain, it will turn physical. Your body can only handle so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a limit, and we can't, if we go over that limit, it's just very detrimental, especially for empaths. And Nicole, I only unfortunately for this episode, I only have a couple more things I can ask you.
Okay. Sure.
I'm going to encourage all of our SpirLifters, as you know, they're commonly known as the audience that watches and listens on podcast format. Please let us know, SpirLifters, how you are enjoying this episode with Nicole. And Nicole, what sometimes I just get so caught up in my words and emotion myself just thinking about this, just because I think it's, you know, I feel in my own heart, I'm like, when I think about other people and how they feel, like what is the one thing right now, but you know, and I encourage all of our listeners, viewers, check out Nicole if you relate to this, you're seeking out this type of healing that you want in your life, to have a spiritual awakening, to feel, you know, a sense of enlightenment or just peace in general, and just joy, right? Which is what we all want in this life. What is the one thing right now in general that, you know, you can either give as a tip or word of encouragement to all those women out there who are empaths, like that they can feel at ease about right now, and maybe just that they should maybe just something basic, like start in the morning and say, hey, start doing this in the morning so you can take off the tension a little bit if you feel it, you know, from a past trauma or something difficult that you're dealing with in your life. Like, I don't know, a prayer or meditation or something like that. What would be, like, number one, a sort of, you know, encouraging word of phrase or of advice, and a general good best practice?
So what I guess I want them really to know is that they're not alone, because for empaths it feels like that, because we feel so different. As you're growing up, you might have been told that you were weird or strange or freak, all these different words that may have come out for you as you were growing up. But what I want you to know is that you're not alone. There's many of us that have experienced that, and there's many of us that have now healed through that, and now we are thriving. So there is hope for you, and you can start to really step into that sensitivity and use it for you instead of against you. It's not something that has to be a burden. I always like to say that our sensitivity is our superpower, and it is, especially once you start to understand how to use it for good instead of it, you know, being something that's bad for you. Now, obviously in the morning, what I'd really like to see you do is, as soon as you wake up, I want you to pay attention to that first thought. What is that first thought that comes to you as soon as you wake up? And I want you to journal about that. So writing that first thought out, because what that's going to do for you, it's going to help you to understand, one, where your subconscious has been throughout the night. What work has it been doing for you throughout the night? But also, where is your focus for the most part? Like, you may not even realize that you've been worrying about this thing that's kind of down a little bit that you're not necessarily noticing on the surface. It's going to give you some guidance around that to know, okay, well, I'm kind of struggling with this right now. What is this about? And it's a bit like a brain dump in a way, I suppose. So then you're starting your day out fresh. And I guess the other thing is, don't start your day on social media.
That's a big deal. That is a very big deal, Nicole, because I think with the rise and use of certain technologies and the phone and the smartphone and everything, like, specifically since around the 2010s and above, you know, time period, basically the last decade, I've fortunately spoken to other people about this, and technology, especially, I would assume for empaths, has a very, very adverse relationship on their energy, right? Especially the positive energy. What little positive energy we may have, will really suck it out and go into a whole different area, right?
That's right. Yeah, because you want to be starting your day out fresh and with your own energy. But if you're picking up that phone or the tablet and you're getting straight on social media, that energy is going straight out of you before your day's even started, before your feet have even hit the ground. Yeah. You don't want to be starting your day in that way.
No way. And unfortunately, we're out of time, Nicole. It goes way too fast.
Yeah.
And I wish we had much more time on going to many other issues, and maybe in another episode we definitely will do that. But
sure.
Where can women out there who will be watching this connect with you, and especially if they're in other parts of the world? I'm sure you can work with women no matter where they are in this age of which we live in which we're filming 2021. But where can they connect with you? Where they can find out more about you? Schedule an appointment with you?
Yeah. So first would be my website. So it's NicoleIvens.com. Also over on Instagram and Facebook, both at Nicole Ivens Holistic Counselling. So you can find me on both of those places.
Perfect.
And you can book, work online with people across the world. Also, if you're local to me here on the Gold Coast in Queensland, I also have a clinic in Robina where you can come and see me in person as well.
I will do that myself just because I want to visit that.
Go to the beach.
Get on the barbecue and the ocean and all that good stuff. So I'll definitely do that personally, So Nicole, thank you so much. And remember, listeners, viewers, women out there who relate to this topic, who feel they are empaths, your sensitivity is a superpower. Do not forget that. Connect with Nicole to be able to understand that fully, utilize it for the benefit of you, and you are a powerful force, an important force in this world, and you are beautiful light. So Nicole, I thank you so much for being on this episode of SpirLift.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you all in the next episode, and take care, everyone.